Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet the island girl, she might dirty wind up.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I'd like to thank J23 for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show notes. My guest today is Lori McDowell. Lori is the CEO of Reimagine You Strategies and the author of the Reinvention Mindset. Right here, I have my signed copy and I've read it, and my wife is reading it as well. Lori is passionate about helping people find joy and fulfillment in business and life. As a speaker, Lori shares a story of how she reinvented herself by tapping into her belief that we can't control what happens and we have a choice about what we do with it. Lori believes it's never too late to make a change, and we all have the power to reinvent our reality and be who we are meant to be. Lori, welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
Thank you, Deepak. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. And for those who probably don't know, I just met Lori, maybe 7-8 months ago. I think we've become pretty good friends, been attending a couple events together, hanging out. So that is awesome. So Lori, I like to start off by, kind of going as far back as you want to, like what got you into doing what you are now? I know this is kind of like second career, if you will. Just feel free to go back as far as you want that led you to doing what you're doing now.
Sure. So I spent most of my career working as a chemical engineer. I actually have a PhD in chemical engineering, and I worked in corporate America for probably about 30 years. And I had a job right after my undergraduate, which I really enjoyed, and decided to go back to grad school. And then after grad school, I worked at various companies, and I typically worked for about 7 years, and then kind of the job I loved became kind of routine. So I'd switch to something else. And that happened over and over again. And then the last job I was in, I had actually been there about 11 years. So it was probably better than the other jobs. And I thought I would just stay there till I retired. And life had other ideas. I ended up being fired from that job in quite a horrible fashion. And once, as I was, I was driving home from where I was fired. I was fired after driving 4 hours to a meeting. And as I was driving home, I guess I just started to realize that I was putting my life and my happiness and the things that were important to me, I was letting someone else control it. I was following all the rules and really not taking responsibility for myself. And I think that's why I always kept getting bored after 7 years, because I was just, doing what I was supposed to do and not really thinking about what I really wanted to do. So at that point, I decided I was going to do what I really wanted to do. And I was going to figure out what made me happy and what made me able to give to the world what I wanted to give, and to find my purpose and make a difference. And I didn't know what that was. So the first thing I did, I always wanted to write a book and never had time. So suddenly I had time, nothing but time. So I said, let me write a book, not having any idea what the book was going to be about. I just followed my intuition and wrote what was in my heart. And it came out to be a book. And after that, I realized
it was this book, right?
It was that book there. Yeah, the Reinvention Mindset. So my first book, I have a couple chapters since then, but that was the first, well, unless you count my thesis, which no one actually read. But after that, I realized I had always loved speaking, and I had always loved teaching and training. So I studied to be a coach and became a certified life and mindset coach, certified business coach, continuing to add to what I can offer people. And I now speak and help people find joy and fulfillment, and really live happy, joyful, fulfilling lives.
So I think that many of the audience can relate to sort of working in, the corporate world, corporate America, corporate Canada, corporate Australia, wherever you live, and going through like layoffs and these sort of things. And we won't get into the details. I think in the book, relay it quite well of that situation you just mentioned, how it was like a really terrible situation that that last company put you in. So I'll just leave that, the audience, pick up the book and you can read it yourself. Maybe like besides the book, you kind of explained why you decided to write the book, nothing but time on your hands, but maybe like that concept of reinvention mindset, like how did that sort of come to fruition?
Sure. What I realized when I looked at myself and just all the people around me that I knew, that there were a lot of people who overall had decent lives, And yet they were not happy. They were kind of stuck. They were living something that was, I don't know, I like to say it, kind of a meh life. They really were, on paper, it looked like they were doing well. They had maybe a good job, a good salary, a family, a nice house. Yet they weren't really happy, and they weren't really fulfilled, and they weren't doing what they really wanted to. And then I also saw people who had horrible things happen to them, really, horrific things. And yet they were doing amazing things and happy and joyful and fulfilled and really living the life they desired. And that kind of confused me, because these people who should be happy because nothing bad happened to them were not. And then these people who had horrible things happen, were living these amazing lives. And I started talking to the people who had the horrible things, and I realized they all had a lot of things in common. And they were things that the people who were just living had never really thought of, never really studied. And so the reinvention mindset came from that idea that, you don't necessarily have to have something horrible happen to you, but you can take these traits and these activities and these mindsets that these people who are living amazing lives had, and apply them to your life, and get from, and get where you're joyful and fulfilled and really living the life you desire. And that's the reinvention mindset, is that, you take charge of your life. You don't put it in someone else's hands. You lead from the heart. You figure out what's important to you and make that your priority. And when you do that, you'll get joy and fulfillment and love. And really you can do anything you want if you come from that place.
Yeah, I love that message, and I totally believe that as well. I think it's a nice segue to my next question was, how can one reinvent their reality without giving all the secrets away? Like
Right. Yeah. A couple of things. The first thing you need to do is really look at yourself and ask yourself the questions, am I happy what I'm doing? What does success mean to me? What's my big why? Why am I doing, what I'm doing? Why am I alive? What's my passion? What's my purpose? And kind of figure out, are you doing that? Are you living your purpose? And if you're not, figure out what's keeping you from that. Is it the people around you? Is it obligations? Is it your own self-limiting beliefs? So having those answers about why are really important. And then there are just tools to help you get that reinvention mindset. And I'm not going to go into all the details, but some of them are simple things as,
give us one, Lori. Give us one tool that someone can use to improve their life.
One tool is, you really have to believe that everything you want is possible. You have to change that mindset to where, if you believe it and if you're willing to work for it, and it's possible. Because so many people want something, yet they don't believe it's really possible. And so, in their head, they're saying, I want to do this, but yet in their heart and their subconscious mind, they're thinking, well, I want to do it, but I don't believe I can. And that's going to stop them.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the unconscious mind there. I mean, that's some of the work that I do as well. Is that how you work with some of your clients and getting over maybe and these are not the words you use, but like their limiting beliefs and et cetera, about what they can actually achieve?
Yes, we do a lot of unconscious mind work and trying to integrate the conscious and the unconscious mind, and going back, to their root cause, what's holding them back, and releasing that. I use multiple different modalities. I've in certifications, everything from hypnotherapy to energy release to Reiki, and to just really getting down deep. And because I think, as your unconscious mind really controls most of the things that go on. And if there's a battle between the conscious and the unconscious mind is going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I certainly believe that, using some of those same modalities myself. Lori, you're quite open. We've had conversations, obviously in talking to us, but also in the book, about your kind of relationship with your mom and some of her, like maybe some of the limiting beliefs she's had and some of the change over time. I would love for you to maybe expand a bit on that.
Sure. I love my mom. My mom is one of the most important people in my life, and she drives me crazy. My mom just is not someone who has, and she's never had a real positive outlook on life. She's always, if there are 100 positive things happening and one negative, she'll find that one negative thing. And I've
I think
tried to help her.
everyone knows that person in their life, right? So
Yes.
it's totally relatable. Sorry, keep continuing.
Yeah, yeah. And I try to tell her, and I hope she's read most of the book, although she gets to a certain point and just stops because I think she's resisting. And she's done so many amazing things in her life, and she doesn't see any of them because she sees all the bad. And it's really frustrating and sad to watch her, because you just want to, like, Ma, you're an amazing person. Just, you know, accept that. Don't look for all the things you've done wrong, or all the bad things, or all the things you should have done differently. And she's kind of stuck in that place. And a lot of the clients are there when they come to me, but working with your family is difficult, whereas a stranger will listen to you.
No, you can't work with family. That's my
No.
personal opinion.
So
So
I
yeah,
refer her to other coaches.
for sure. And I don't want to give anything away because I want everyone to go and pick up the book themselves. But I will just say this, that Lori does, I think, a great storytelling of again, about her mom and her mindset and everything, and how it's kind of evolved over time throughout the book, and how it's maybe still not where you'd want it to be, but like the improvement she has made. I mean, that becomes obvious to me as the reader of the book. So I love that part of it. Just kind of pulling on that same thread there, do you feel that there are some people, this came up in conversation with my wife in the last couple of weeks, do you feel there's like some people who are just like addicted to drama, like they almost feel fulfilled by having drama in their life?
I do. I mean, I think we're all addicted to something, and for the people who are living great lives, they get addicted to that feeling of living a great life. But yeah, I think there are definitely people that are addicted to drama, or that, they like that martyr syndrome kind of, or being the victim, and they'll find it no matter where it is. And it's probably because something that happened to them earlier in their life, or some belief that came somewhere. And now, I don't think that addictions is hard to get rid of as some of the physical addictions. So I think, working with those people, they can get out of that state and maybe find a more positive addiction, something that, where they want to change. But yeah, I definitely do see that, they're addicted to that drama, or they're addicted to the need to feel like the victim. And they actually get their adrenaline from that. They get, I guess that's why people, like, they say most lottery winners end up right back where they started, or worse, a couple of years later, because they're kind of don't know what to do with that feeling of being abundant and happy, and they end up getting themselves back in that old state.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Laura, let's take a bit of a different churn here. So, I know you, I know, you're like an avid, runner and all that sort of thing. And this is, not necessarily a health podcast per se, but I always like to ask my guests, like, what is like some non-negotiable for your health, or maybe a different way to put it, like, what's your morning routine look like?
Right. Meditation is definitely a non-negotiable, some kind of meditation or breath work, or combination of the two. I do that every morning. First thing I wake up. It could, if it's a really busy day, it might only be 5 minutes. I like to spend 30 minutes to an hour if I can, but that's definitely a non-negotiable. And the other is some type of movement. I don't work out, per se workout every day, but I walk the dog for at least a mile a day. I stand up. I have my stand-up desk, so I try not to sit all day long, but just moving, because sitting is just not good for your health and not good for your mindset. So, and I love being outside, so I'll go outside. I live in Houston, so it's in the winter, it's not bad at all. The summer, it's sometimes a little hot, but I like to get fresh air every day, even if it's just standing outside, for 10 minutes. But being outside, I think, is really important.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Like, I have a dog as well, so even just taking him out for him to do his business, multiple times a day, short little walks, you add it up, it's at least half an hour, if not more, every day of getting fresh air, even when it's like super cold up here in Canada where I live. But get some sun in your eyes and some fresh breeze in your face is wonderful. What is if you could sort of go back in time, what you can answer this however you like, what is one thing you wish you started early in your life, or maybe another way to say it is, what would you love to go back and tell a younger version of yourself? some piece of advice.
Yeah, I wish I knew earlier in my life that there were other options than getting a job. I know, my mom had a job, my dad had a job. No one in my family, no one I knew ran their own business. So we all worked for someone else. And I don't know, I probably would not have done that right out of college. Yet I wish I would have known that that was even an opportunity or something I could do, because I never even considered it. And I think if I had known that, I may have started my own business sooner, or at least looked at other things to do. So that was something I definitely wish I had done earlier, was know that, other than just working for someone else, that there were other options. I knew people who ran their own business, but I never really thought about, well, how do they do that? Or what's it? Is that something I could do?
Right, right. I love that. And you know, as you know, as many people who follow me know, my kids are relatively young still. And I mean, they're going to do whatever they want to do, and we'll be supportive of them. But I'm also trying to keep them their mindset open. It's like, you don't have to be, an accountant like mom. You don't have to be, a teacher that you see all the time, or whatever the case may be. Like, being an entrepreneur or whatever that looks like. It's not easy. None of it's easy, but it's like that is an option. I'm just trying to like let them know that, because like you, is like, I was just told, like, go to university, get a job. Like, my parents come from that generation of where, like, you'd get a job, you'd have that job for 40 years or whatever. And it's like, that doesn't happen anymore. Right. Type of thing. So I love that. That's the advice you give your younger self. Laura, you also have a gift for the listeners. And for everyone, before Lori describes it, just I want to say, like, all of Lori's links and how to contact her, and a link for this particular gift will all be in the show notes below. So don't worry about it. You'll be able to get a hold of Lori. So Lori, what is the gift that you have for the listeners?
Right. The gift I have is it's an assessment. It's a very short, maybe 4 to 5 minute assessment. And it goes through different areas of life, things like spiritual, health and fitness, mindset, finance. And it asks you to rate yourself how you are on these different areas of life. And it's really important because, we all have goals, but unless you know where you're starting, it's hard to figure out where you're going. You need to have a starting place. So this assessment will tell you, hey, I'm doing really well in this area of life, so maybe I need to focus somewhere else. It gives you a little bit of a good starting place. And then once you fill out the assessment, I will get your results and I'll send you an email. And if you're interested, we can schedule a call just to review the results and maybe talk about some resources that might help you in the areas where you could use a little help. So
I think it's really important to people tend to get really focused in one area. It could be exercise or health. Let's just call it health in general. It could be their career, whatever the case may be, or sometimes it's like into our families or raising our children, whatever the case. But we need a balance, and sometimes they can be out of balance, and that's totally fine for a certain period. But we can't go out of balance for too long, I don't think. So we need to have some level of balance in all aspects of our life. That's become super apparent for myself over the last year, 18 months or so as well. So I love that that's a free gift. So everyone, yeah, definitely jump on that. Again, the link will be in the show notes. Check out the assessment. Laura said it takes 4 or 5 minutes. Yeah, so definitely check that out. Laura, as we come to kind of a close here, last couple of questions. What is maybe like a golden nugget or wise words of wisdom that you'd like to leave the audience with?
sure. I guess if I can do two, one is really short, and I will say, you can't do this on your own. So if you're trying to, whatever you're trying to do, ask for help. People are willing to help you. Don't try to do it all by yourself, whether it's a coach or just a friend or an online group. Don't ask for help, because people want to help you. And the other is to realize how you talk to yourself and how you speak in general. Because I know Deepak, but the unconscious mind doesn't really recognize negative words. I mean, if I tell you, don't think of a purple elephant, we're all thinking of purple elephants right now. I know I am. And you can't not think of a purple elephant until you think of one first. And then that gets stuck in your head. So if you say to yourself, oh, I'm a failure, or, oh, I'll never do this, or, oh, I can't get this done, I can't do that, your unconscious mind remembers all those negatives, the can'ts, and you start to convince yourself you can't. Whereas if you speak positively, I'm successful, I'm joyful, I'm fit and healthy. Speak positive and speak the way you're already there, both inside your head and in your words. Your unconscious mind starts to believe that and thinks, and even if it hasn't happened yet, it thinks it already has, and it'll help you get there. So positive self-talk, positive talk outside. If you have a negative thought, don't state it, try to change it, but just really, the more positive you are and the more towards where you want to go, the more likely you're going to get there.
I love both of those. So I just want to piggyback on those. So yeah, no, first point, yes, just whatever you're struggling with, or maybe it's not even a struggle, it's just more maybe a challenge, or even just like in a curiosity, even talk to someone. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a coach like me and Lori. Could be a trusted friend, family member, maybe your pastor, or something to that effect, community member, what have you. Just talk to somebody, whatever it is. And certainly if you're struggling with something, yes, please talk to someone. There's always help available. And I'll just pull on that string a little bit, and this is not everyone's situation, but I found for myself, I made the greatest strides in my life, both professionally and personally, when I actually asked for help and like received help. And sometimes you have to pay for that help, and more often than not, people are willing to. Generally, people want to help other people. So much free resources and things like that I've received. I'm super grateful for that. So I love that you brought that up. And then secondly, yes, we have to be very cognizant of the self-talk and the language we speak. We're often say to ourselves things we would never ever say to someone else. We would never say, but we say to ourselves, we're worst our enemy. And I think it's even more important. Again, I think always for all of us, but especially if you have, young adults, teenagers, children, like we have to be really mindful of not only the language we use in general, but also the language we hear them using, and try and put a reframe on that, so that they're not making those grooves in their unconscious mind deeper and deeper. So yeah, what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, that's a great point, because I mean, as I've learned in studying root cause, so many of us have something back in our lives that came from our childhood, or and it's not that we had bad experiences or bad parents, it's just our mind saw something like that, and the earlier you can start changing that, the easier it'll be. So yeah, working with your kids. I have a son who's 20, so he's already pretty set, but trying to change him, and if he says something terrible about himself or a negative, just really trying to ask him, why do you think that? And I don't think that, and keep him positive. So I think that's really important, especially the younger the child is, helping them see themselves. I mean, we're all amazing. Someone said to me recently how, we were all created by God or the creator, whatever you believe. We were created by someone, and we were created in their image. So we can never be any more or any less than that person, which means we're all perfect. We're all perfectly exactly who we were to be. And the sooner we realize that, the better our life will be.
Yeah. Let's pull on this thread for just a second here. So, again, yes, the younger, right? A lot of these limiting beliefs or emotional things that come up is, typically under 7 for children. My kids are just a bit older than that, but I think it's even more like, so this is where I'd love to get your thoughts, Lori. I think it's even more important in this day and age where like there's way more media, there's way more social media. Kids are having, even at younger ages, having access to more access to their friends because they have their own phones, devices, etc. I personally think it's even more challenging now than say my generation, or what have you. What's your any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm a little older than you. So I remember, we didn't have computers or phones when I was growing up. And it was kind of nice because you didn't have, there were bullies, there were people that were negative, but you could avoid them. You could go away. You could not hang around with them. And it's hard. It's very challenging to be a child today because you do have access to so many things. So I think it is really important, for parents to reinforce the positivity, to reinforce that don't listen to what, you may see all this stuff or you may have access, but don't listen to that. If come to me if you have an issue, and to know how amazing they are. I mean, and that has to come from the parents, and hopefully teachers and other adults will help reinforce it. But when so many people are negative on themselves, it's hard for them to bring that positivity towards the kids. So I think it's really important. I agree with you completely that it's definitely much harder to be a child nowadays when you have access to so much more, the internet, phones, everything that you can see, that we didn't really have that.
Yeah, it's interesting. This wasn't even, didn't pop in my mind as to be a question, but just something you said just came up. Even now, when I look back, like we'll watch family movies or like, teen or, movies, like the ratings now, what gets away, what the media or movies or television shows, what they can show at the same ratings than when I was a kid is like completely different, right? Like the stuff they show now at like I forget their exactly TV 14, like so for suitable up to 14 and under. It was like NC 17 when I was like a kid. I was like, what? They're showing this stuff now? Like the rating is totally skewed. It just as a parent was like, and not only two girls, but like they're younger girls. It just blows my mind sometimes. Like this is like what's available now at that,
Right. No.
it's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Even what's on television, it's funny. Like if you watch an old TV show, they weren't quite as politically correct as they are today. So some of the stuff in the old TV shows, you're like, wow, they were able to talk about that.
Right.
But things about, just the language and the wholesomeness and the stuff that they show is so different because, there's definitely more sophistication in a way in what they're showing today, which is not necessarily appropriate for younger minds who don't quite understand it. So yeah, I agree that the ratings seem to have changed. Things that used to be, you would never show your kids are now acceptable in those TV 14 or PG 13 ratings.
Right. Yeah. Lori, I really appreciate you being on the show today. And again, everyone, all of Lori's links and to get in touch with her, find out more about her work, to purchase the book, and I highly recommend it. I've read it, and my wife's in the midst of reading it. You can see the bookmarks there where we're at, and for the assessment for Lori's free gift, it'll all be in the show notes below. So Lori, again, thank you for being on the Deepak Saini Show.
Thank you, Deepak. I really enjoyed it. Have a great day.
Yeah, I'm going to throw it back to J23, who's going to guide us out. Also, don't forget to check out today's show sponsor as well. There's some new free resources in the show notes of my own as well, so check those out. And again, everyone, thank you for listening to Deepak Saini Show. And remember, exceptional results for the exceptional you. Till next time. This episode is brought to you by Optimizers Magnesium Breakthrough. This is a product I've been using and our family's been using for 4 years already. What I love about it, it has 7 different forms of magnesium in it, all the forms that your body needs for all 400 processes that your body needs magnesium for. Most magnesium supplements have one form and usually a crummy form of magnesium. This has all 7 forms that your body needs. So click the link and get at least 10% off. Sometimes there's specials and you even get more. So check out Optimizers Magnesium Breakthrough.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company